Welcome to this week's edition of Negro Please. I am your host, Dallas Scott, co-host Mr. Hollywood Huff, our producer extraordinaire, Mr. Quan the 5'9". It's a lot to talk about this week, and yet some things I just don't have anything to say about. Anything about. There are things that just I don't. First of all, why is everybody hating on John Legend? Like, why can't that man be sexy? Like, I personally don't like to listen to him sing, but why can't that man be sexy? I mean, I actually got to look this up real quick. Like, who was 2000's? We're in 2019 now, right? So who's 2018's people's sexiest man? I'm just curious.
I have no idea.
Let's find out. Hold on. I Google. Let's Google it. And who was 2016? Sexiest man alive. Oh, Idris Elba. Did Idris Elba die?
Nah, he's still alive.
And he was sexier than John Legend last year, right?
Yeah.
So why isn't he sexier than him this year?
Hey, man. It was all good a week ago. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't even understand. Like, I don't even understand how they do these things. So many things going on here. We have to talk about this just to bring it up. So yesterday, Byron Allen went in front of the Supreme Court to argue over the Civil Rights Act of 1866, Part 1981, which basically says that you must give minorities equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes 4 to 6 months for the Supreme Court to come back with a ruling. One thing that I found was interesting was that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was not there yesterday because she was out sick. And there are 9 members of the Supreme Court. You have to have a 5-4 vote. Does she get a vote?
That's a weird twist.
Like, because historically, she would vote for this, right? She's all about equal rights of women and minorities. Mm-hmm. That's her thing. That's kind of really how she got into the Supreme Court,
right?
Was her stance on equal rights for women. So, like, that's one vote for you, right? So now you just got to get 4 others.
Right.
But I don't know how it works because she was out sick yesterday. Do they tape the testimony and let her watch it later? Or does she have to abstain from the vote? It's kind of a weird thing. And I couldn't find an answer. Like, I Googled to see what would happen, like, and there's no answer to, like, at least as far as I could find on the worldwide of Google, to explain it. So, like, because that's a big deal, right? Like, it's like when you know you got one, right? You would think, being that Clarence Thomas is black and a minority, that you might get 2 there.
Yeah.
Casa Mayor, minority, female, 3. So now you're really looking for 2, to go your way. Like, I don't know how the Supreme Court works like that. It's just
it's weird. It's interesting, especially being that they won before.
Freddie is watching us on Facebook, and Freddie's an attorney. He says she gets transcripts, so she will get transcripts, so she'll get her vote in. Okay.
All right, that makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Thank you for your. See, we have knowledgeable friends from all walks of life.
I always think it's really weird because they won even before this, and it's just one of those things where Comcast they lose and they're like, you know what? No, we're gonna take it to the next court. It's like mom said no. Okay, we're going to ask dad. No, dad said no. All right, we're going to grandma. Like, you just keep going up the list till you get a final answer at the Supreme Court, which is something that to me just seems like a waste of time. Like, it should be any decent person.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Should be able to just stop and say, like, like, you can't discriminate against people. Like, that's
so this is interesting. So Fred, who's watching this, friend of mine, he's an attorney, and he says that Byron Allen won't win this case. Fred, you got to call in 702-608-3259. You have to call in and explain to us why he won't win this case.
Yeah.
I'm very curious from a legal standpoint why you would think, because to me, as just an observer, not on I would think that the fact that you have to prove that something wasn't done because entirely 100% because they were black it's not provable. Like you can't prove that.
Right.
So yeah, Fred, if you call us up 702-608-3259. I'm curious from a legal standpoint, like why you think he won't win.
This is what's crazy about American law. Like so much stuff is just wrapped up in technicalities with things having to be done a certain way. Like you see it in a movie sometime, but it's a real thing where somebody gets arrested and the officer didn't read them their rights, and then their rights were violated, and because of that the case is thrown out of court or postponed, or it's used to sway the jury left or right, or you know what I mean, something in that nature, all because of a small technicality that one person somewhere along the line didn't do something the way it was supposed to be done.
And I'm curious because he did win this in. Okay, so there were actually two cases originally. He sued Comcast and he sued Spectrum. He beat Spectrum in the lower courts. He lost to Comcast, and then he appealed to the Ninth Circuit and then won in the Ninth Circuit. Freddie, you there?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, man? So you don't think, as an attorney, you don't think that Byron Allen will win this case? Why not?
First things first, I'm not an attorney. I went to law school, but not a.
Fair enough.
But
gotta pass that.
I don't think he'll win because the thing that he talked about in his interview with the Breakfast Club what's called the but-for standard. And the way he described the but-for standard is a little misleading when he said that you have to pretty much prove 100% that the person was discriminated against because of race. That's not really how the but-for standard works. The but-for standard pretty much says that he was discriminated against, and but for the fact that he's black, he would have gotten the contract. So it's saying that if he were a white guy and he were in the same situation with the same qualifications and everything, he still wouldn't have he would have gotten the case if he were white. But since he was black, that's the only reason he didn't get the case. But for him being black, he would have gotten the contract. I mean, not the case, but the contract.
Okay.
So, and basically, the Supreme Court was asking them, why did the Ninth Circuit not use the but-for standard? And he is basically saying that they should use the lower standard for him to get the case into the Ninth Circuit, but later on, once they make a decision, they should be allowed to use the but-for standard. And the Supreme Court is saying you should use the same standard at every level. The but-for should be the standard at every level. If you can understand what I'm saying.
I get, so yeah. So he changed the rules as he was going up the ladder.
Yeah, well, they're saying that the Ninth Circuit pretty much used a lower standard the whole way.
Okay. But
Byron Allen's attorney argued that they should be able to get into the court using a lower standard, but once they actually make a final decision, you should have to use the but-for standard. And the Supreme Court is saying that doesn't make sense. They're saying that the standard should be the same pretty much at all times. If you're able to get in under a lower standard, then why would we use the but-for standard later? If you can't win under that standard, why would we even accept that it's standard in the beginning?
Huh.
Okay.
So, from a legal perspective, why wouldn't they try to use the same standard going up the courts?
They do use the same standard. But Byron Allen's attorney is arguing that they should. And that's why he's going to lose the case. Because the Supreme Court is saying the standard is the same. You're going to need the same standard to bring the case that you're going to need to win the case.
Okay.
And Byron Allen's attorney is saying, well, we should only have to prove that there was some kind of discrimination to get the case in. There shouldn't be a but-for standard to have to get the case heard. But they're saying it shouldn't be a different standard to get the case heard than the standard to win the case. Like, it doesn't make sense for us to hear the case if you know you can't win it.
Do you think that from all the stuff I read, and I recently found out that Byron Allen actually owns the Grio, the news site, the Grio. So like a lot of the stuff on there is kind of like slanted towards his way. Do you think that he is misrepresenting what this ruling will do to civil rights?
Yes.
Because essentially he's saying that if the Supreme Court says no to this Civil Rights Act of 1866, Article 1981, that then essentially all civil rights granted after that aren't valid because they were all based off this original case.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Again, I think he is misquoting the but-for standard, and that is where the Supreme Court, I think, is going to make a decision. I don't think it's really going to be so much based on that Civil Rights Act of 1866. I think it's going to be more so the president is going to be set by the but-for standard. So I don't think it's really going to affect that law the way he's saying it. I mean, the thing is, when he was on the Breakfast Club, he let you know from the beginning that he's been a great salesman his whole life.
Right.
And you have to realize that he's going to play on things to make it seem like it's the way he wants it to seem. And I like the guy, but I just don't think he's giving everyone the whole truth. And I think he's a good guy, but I think he's kind of painting a jaded view for everyone.
It's funny you say that you think he's a good guy. And it's interesting because until recently, like when this case came up, like everything I'd ever read about Byron Allen in Hollywood wasn't good. Like it was always that he was this kind of nasty, maybe shrewd kind of angle shooting businessman. And then this comes up and now he's portrayed as the great savior for civil rights and black inclusion.
And I guess I should go back on that. I should say I don't know a lot about him. From what I've heard, he seems to be a good guy. So I can't say that I really think he's a good guy because I don't know a lot about him. So you could be right.
Yeah. And again, these are just and I don't know him either. I'm talking about other articles and stuff that I had read in years previous to this, because I've always kind of like looked up to Byron Allen because of what he's been able to do, like the amount of like with no money, like he creates these things, and it's completely changed the way people do things. Like he has all these television shows on television, and it's because he buys the space and from the channel and creates his own advertising, and then goes out and sells his own advertising. So he changed the model at which a lot of things were done on television. Kind of like if you watched My Name is Dolomite, how he went and rented the movie theater and then charged the prices that he wanted to charge and got part of the concession. Byron Allen essentially did that to take cable channels. But a lot of the articles that I'd read about him previous years was that he was just kind of a nasty businessman. But when people say something like that, you don't know really how far to take it. Are they talking about it because he's a black businessman who's succeeding, or is he really just this kind of jerk? And then all of a sudden now, like I said, because of this case, he's almost seen as kind of like the savior of civil rights, the modern day Martin Luther King, because he's taking this court. So he actually won in the Ninth Circuit, and Comcast challenges to the Supreme Court. Does the Ninth Circuit's ruling help him in this case?
Well, the thing that's probably going to happen with this case, the Supreme Court is probably going to send this case back to the Ninth Circuit. The Supreme Court, what they'll do is they'll send it back to the Ninth Circuit, and they will basically break down the but-for standard. Like, this is what the but-for standard is. This is the way you need to apply it to the case, and send it back to the Ninth Circuit. And then the Ninth Circuit will apply the but-for standard the correct way and make a new ruling on the case. And the Supreme Court could have to hear it again, but probably not. They'll just send it back to the Ninth Circuit to make a new ruling.
So this is a long way from being over. We're not talking just 4 to 6 months. This is literally probably a couple years away from being finished.
Possibly.
Okay.
They may not. This is simply my take. I think the Supreme Court will send it back, but they could just make a ruling on it and be done. But I think they'll send it back to the Ninth Circuit.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for calling in, Freddie. Thank you for your legal expertise. Work on that bar, man. Hey, thanks again, Freddie, for calling in. Oh, actually, Freddie, hang on a second. Are you still there?
Yeah.
All right. Because our next subject, I know, is I've been watching you your post on Facebook, and I know it's a little near and dear to your heart. Colin Kaepernick. He's getting a workout this weekend. A lot of things wrong with this, but I saw your post that you think Jay-Z might have actually had something to do with this.
I do. I actually, I read a few things that said that it was actually in his contract that Kaepernick had to get a tryout. I don't know if that's true, but I definitely think he has something to do with it.
See, I don't, and I feel like if he did, then shame on him, because this is done horribly wrong, right? Because first of all, they call Kaepernick on Tuesday and be like, "We're going to give you a workout." Okay, cool. When are we going to, like, a week or so? No, Friday, Saturday. Most of these things are done on Tuesdays. Can we do this on Tuesday? No, we're going to do it this Saturday. But most of the NFL reps and stuff have their scouts and people at games, college football games. Yeah, that's okay. We're still going to do it on Saturday. Like, I feel like I agree with the guy, and I can't think of his name right now, out of the Boston Globe, that said that the NFL didn't expect Colin Kaepernick to say yes.
Yeah.
They didn't expect him to say yes to this.
I agree with you 100%. I don't think they expected him to say yes, and I do think it's mostly a PR stunt. I wouldn't say shame on Jay-Z. I would say that Jay-Z kind of got taken, because if it's in his contract that they had to give him a tryout, the NFL is upholding their end by giving him a tryout, and Jay-Z was trying to do the right thing by looking out for his quote-unquote friend. However, he didn't realize how clever they could be with giving him a tryout. So I think he got duped in the situation.
I think on the other hand, too, though, everything that Kaepernick has ever posted seems like at the bottom is just like a footnote of every tweet, text, and message he sends out is saying that he's always training, he's always ready, he's staying in shape, he wants to play. So if he's as ready as he's been putting on, is this really a surprise? Is this really kind of a like, aha, you got 4 days to be ready for this tryout? Like, he's been saying he's been ready for 3 years now. So isn't this just kind of like, okay, well, if you're ready, meet us on Saturday. Let's here's your shot.
So Adam Schefter, to me, I've never seen him be wrong. Like, if anybody who follows ESPN or NFL, Adam Schefter is the man. Like, he knows everything about everything. He has a theory, and by theory, he's saying that the reason this is happening is because there are teams who want to sign Colin Kaepernick because they need a backup quarterback. And when they went to the league and were like, look, we're thinking about doing this, the league wanted to be out front like, hey, we're all on board with this.
Yeah.
When in reality, they may or may not be. And it's funny because Matt Hasselbeck is like 41 years old. He says teams are calling him and asking him if he's interested in being a backup quarterback. He's like, no, I'm 41 years old. Dan Orlovsky has been retired for 6 years. Teams are calling him, asking him if he's interested in being a backup quarterback. For a long time, I didn't think that Kaepernick really even wanted to be, but maybe now he's made these statements that he does. Steve Young made a very interesting point yesterday on PTI. There's never been a doubt about Colin Kaepernick's physical skills. That's never been in question.
Yeah.
The question is
at a pro level,
right?
I'll say yeah.
The question is, can he read defenses and make progressions? And Steve Young made the point. He's like, if you show up to this thing, Colin Kaepernick's going to do what he does physically.
Right.
He's going to throw the ball downfield. He's going to run fast. He's going to scamper. You know what I mean? He's going to find open guys. But can he read defenses still? And the answer is he hasn't done it in 2.5 years. Do we know how much tape study he's been doing and study like that?
Right.
Another thing that I found very interesting, according to another reporter, was that one of the teams sending somebody to them to see the workout is the Patriots. And and Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell, we know, are really good buddies here, right?
Yeah.
The word is that the Patriots want Colin Kaepernick on their scout team because they don't have anybody to be Lamar Jackson on the scout team.
Makes sense. I mean, I think there's plenty of room. There's plenty of jobs for Kaepernick available in the league.
Matt Moore was holding a clipboard, and all of a sudden he's the backup to Mahomes and winning games in Kansas City.
Bro, have you seen the quarterback in Chicago? I mean, have you seen like 15 other quarterbacks who have a starting position?
Brian Hoyer.
Walk outside the Fremont Street, throw a rock. If it hits a man in the head, put a helmet on him, and he could probably be a starting quarterback on a couple teams in the NFL right now. The quarterback situation sucks. And I say that giving all respect to professional athletes who have done this for probably 10, 15 years of their life before they even got to the NFL. But we watch these games, and week after week, it's not just diehard fans, it's casual fans. Everybody watches this, and they go, wow, this guy sucks. Why is he still there?
But isn't this part of the national evolution of quarterbacks in NFL? Because for years, right, you had the class of 84. Elway, Kelly, Marino, like all these guys came out, and they lit up the league. And then there was this lull, right, where like the next group of you can't even name guys that came in until Brett Favre, right?
Right.
And Brett Favre was 12 years later. Like, you can't even think of guys. Right. Then all of a sudden it was Favre, Manning, Brady. We're back to having high-quality quarterbacks. Now, aren't we just in that lull where there's just because the game changes and you have to catch up to quarterbacks evolving?
Right. I mean, you have to, on one hand, quarterbacks evolve, but so do defenses. So do the way that we read and analyze plays. That's why you'll have a quarterback or a player who his one season he'll break out and he'll be amazing. They can't figure it out. The next season, he's shut down.
Because
you know what I mean? Because
defensive catch up.
They catch up. They
Cam
figure
Newton,
out how to stop him.
They figured out how to stop Cam Newton.
Perfect example.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Cam Newton. He was unstoppable, made it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Michael Vick.
Michael Vick, another one, right? And then
Randall Cunningham.
Unfortunately for Michael Vick, later in his career, he found out how to be a better quarterback, but it was just too late.
Right.
Physically.
Michael Vick went to jail for 3 years, came back and played NFL.
Right.
Like
so that to me, that's proof that Colin Kaepernick can do it. That's why it's never the point of Kaepernick not playing has never been to me about his ability to play football. It's not about if he's qualified enough. People say, oh, he's a one-read quarterback. So are 75% of the quarterbacks that are probably starting right now. 10 quarterbacks are 2 and 3 and 4 read quarterbacks. The rest of them are one-read quarterbacks, period. That's just the way it works, right? Kaepernick can play. Yeah. We all know the reason why he's not playing has nothing to do with his ability. It's the politics of it. So if we can ever get past that, which I don't think we will, but if we can, there's places for him to be playing this.
I'll bet he gets signed by Tuesday. Freddie, what were you going to say?
And I think that's where you're going to see basically what you were saying a second ago is the question is, can he read defenses? But like you said, when he gets there on Saturday, he's physically gifted. He's going to be able to throw the ball. He's going to be able to run. He's going to be able to move and do all those things. So you're going to find out on Saturday if they really want to sign him. Because on Saturday, you won't be able to see if he can read a defense or not. All you're going to be able to see is his physical ability. So if all of a sudden nobody wants him, it's like, okay, why? You can't say, well, he can't read defenses. You can't tell that from a workout.
Right. And so we don't know what extent he's been working out, and we don't know if he's been watching tape of defenses, trying to learn how to read defenses better. And we don't, I mean, we don't know that information. But I'm willing to bet by Tuesday he's signed.
Well, and they're also keeping in mind they're not looking. Nobody's looking to sign him to play this year. This is for next season, from what I've read. They're looking to bring him in now, get a workout in, and then have him on a team by the start of next season. That's what they're looking for. What part of the team as backup quarterback or
run the scout team for the Patriots defense because they don't know how to handle the Mahomes and the Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson type quarterbacks. They don't have an answer for that. Yeah. They want him on a scout team so he can run around and they can figure out a defense for it. Bill Belichick, as much as I don't like the guy personally because I just don't like his attitude, but the man's a genius, right? He's going to do whatever it takes to win. And Bob Kraft, no matter what you think of his, massage parlor antics and stuff like that. He gives his team the opportunity to win. He goes out and gets the players that they deem fit to be on their team that they need to win.
19 years in a row, they've been a contender.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a miracle, if nothing else. So, yeah, he's going to do whatever it takes, and I don't see Cap taking a knee getting in the way of that.
That's the question, though, right? That everybody wants to know.
Of course he's going to take a knee. He's still taking a knee right now. I mean,
Is he, though? I mean, like, does he make this, like, that's the question, right? Like, does he come back and take a knee, or has he made his point and he's like, I've made my point?
He's going to face criticism either way.
Right.
He built the fan base he has now. Most of it has been built from him taking a knee.
Right.
If he doesn't take a knee, I think he loses a lot of that fan base. I don't think most of them understand the politics of moving on from taking a knee. As what Jay-Z said, we're past the point of kneeling.
Right.
I don't think most of the Kaepernick fans are past the point of kneeling. They still want to kneel, right? They still feel like we should be kneeling. So I don't think Kaepernick stops kneeling. I mean, he might.
He already said he wouldn't kneel 2 years ago.
Yeah, but
he already said he was done kneeling.
We'll see. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't even know if he'll be on the field to not. I feel like that's like 0.15 down the line at this point.
Right. And somebody else made the point, like maybe he does say he's not going to kneel, then something else happens, and now he feels like he needs to take a stance again.
Yeah. So I mean, who knows? I mean, but he did say that 2 years ago. So far, honestly, he's done everything he said he would do. He said he dedicated, I want to say it was $1 million to so many organizations. He didn't just give money. He actually gave his time. He showed up. He worked with these people. He did everything that he said he would do so far. I respect him on that level 100%. He has not been in a position to not do what he said he would do.
If he doesn't get signed, I think this is a very bad look for the NFL. I really feel like that Adam Schefter's right, that there are teams who want to sign him because there are a lack of quarterbacks available to play in the NFL, and he needs to be on a roster because too many teams are on their second and third quarterbacks right now, and they're like, where do we go from here? Because Matt Hasselbeck says he doesn't want to play at 41 years old. Hey, Freddie, again, thanks for calling in, man. We appreciate it. We will keep you on the show for our resident legal expert in the future. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, man.
God, there's so much stuff.
Yeah.
We have to talk about this one because it was sent to us. We really actually appreciate you guys sending us stuff to talk about. This makes us feel like we're making an impact of some sort. So, Beaumont, Texas, right down the street from Freddie. See, it doesn't give her name, and it doesn't, and I understand why they don't give the kids' names. There's a school in Beaumont, Texas. Mother gets called to the school, and essentially, her child is acting up. She drags her kid out of the class and whoops him with the belt in front of, not everybody, just some teachers, a teacher and somebody else who's not identified in the video.
Yeah.
And then there may be a dean or assistant principal or something. Our friend Bryce is like, hey, you guys need to talk about this on the show. And he sent it to us on Facebook, and it created this huge thread of people discussing what is and what is not child abuse. The thread to me was very telling in the fact that, with the exception of my cousin Brandon, who said it was child abuse, every other person on there that said it was child abuse was not a minority. Every minority that commented on it said, oh, that's just an ass whooping.
Yeah. And that bothers me a lot. And it's not for the reasons y'all probably think. Because I'm a parent. I have 3 kids. 2 of them are old enough to be disciplined. 1 is not even 1 year old yet. So, I mean, what am I going to do? You know, can't take out my belt on an 11-month-old, right?
Right.
Here's how I feel about it. I do believe in discipline. And before y'all heretics go off on spare the rod, spoil the child, like, the rod is not always a whipping stick. The rod is discipline. All discipline does not have to be physical. There's a spot for it, and I think every child is different. Every child responds different. I have 3 children. Two of them are of age where they could get a physical whooping, but even those 2 kids respond differently to physical spankings, right? So my oldest, I literally sometimes have to spank her. My middle one, the threat of a spanking is enough to send her to straighten up, right? My older one, though, when I put her on punishment, take her cell phone away, take her tablet away, you can't watch TV, you can't play with your toys and this and this and that, I get results, right? So does she always need a spanking? Of course not, you know? But there are some kids, we've all been to church, we've all been to Walmart, we've all been to public places where there's some parent who obviously does not discipline their child in any way, shape, or form, or at least not enough. And that kid is acting a fool, and the first thing you think, somebody need to beat that kid head in. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm about to take off my belt and whoop this kid, right? So we've all been there. When I see this video, I don't know the history of this kid acting up in school. I don't know what this mother has tried. But what it seems like to me is this mother is embarrassed and is taking it out on her child in a public way. Number one, why is she filming it? Is she going to go back and replay the tape later to see how she can give a better spanking? I mean, is this to show the dad? Is it to protect her from like legal ramifications or something later? Like, what is the point of filming this? I don't understand.
So CPS, Child Protective Services, went into the home
Right.
and took out the child and his siblings.
Right.
I have my initial thought is it's not for me to tell you how to discipline your child.
I agree with that 100%.
I don't know your child. And like you said, like I have 5 kids and I can't discipline them all the same.
Right.
My daughter, Dallas, all I got to do is take away her cell phone and all hell breaks loose. And you would think I beat her. You know,
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, drivers in Minnesota, she got her license today. Y'all might want to stay off the road. I'm just saying. But when I was this was an isolated incident that we saw on, and when I first saw it, and I was reading people's comments, and I guess I didn't pay as much attention to the video as I was reading people's comments, and people were talking about this is an abusive parent and blah 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 blah. First of all, this is an isolated incident, right? And they're talking about, oh, this kid is going to be, he's being abused, he's going to grow up to be an abuser, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
You saw an isolated incident within this family dynamic, right?
Right.
And I told this story on Facebook, and my brothers and sisters will attest this. My brother Charles, in 7th grade,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what he did to get my dad called to school.
Right.
But my dad gets called to school. Charles thinks that he's going to talk smack to my dad in front of the classroom.
Right.
And this is 1989-ish.
Right. Yeah.
So when my dad gets to school, Charles thinks he's going to show off in front of all his boys in the classroom.
Right.
And talk ignorant to my dad.
Yeah.
Charles got whooped in class in front of everybody. It wasn't no pulling him aside just to Charles got whooped in the class.
Right.
My dad was not an abusive father.
Right.
My dad's a military guy. He was believed a lot in discipline.
Right.
And we actually we tease Charles about this so bad to this day, and that was 35 years ago.
Right.
You know, like Charles didn't grow up to be an abuser.
Mm-hmm.
He's been married to Brandy for I don't even know how long. They got 2 teenage daughters. He went to college. He got a degree. He's had on the same job for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. Like that incident didn't make Charles an abuser.
Right.
So when people say that, and I feel like if people saw the incident today, they'd be like, oh, my dad's an abusive father.
Right.
When in reality, this was an isolated incident where Charles tried to act a fool and show up my dad, and he got his feelings hurt.
And I think also this, so your brother Charles, he was in 7th grade when that happened, right?
Yes.
So he was what?
13-ish.
12, 13, somewhere
yeah.
around there. This kid is obviously a lot younger than that. You know what I mean? Like this kid, he looks like he's in 2nd or 3rd grade. You know what I mean? Maybe even 1st grade. I don't know what grade he was in. And that's kind of the other thing that bothers me is, number one, I still don't know why this mother was called to the school exactly what happened. But this whooping couldn't wait till he got home. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like what you do, this is kind of another thing where we live in a social media age where everything has to be public. You bring your child home and you discipline them the right way. Trust me, I'm talking with my daughter's teachers sometimes twice a week because I'm trying to make sure that, if she's struggling in this, let's make sure she's doing better. I don't have a whole bunch of time, so I can't spend time with her doing her homework every single day after school. I don't have time to go up to the school. I have jobs. I got things to do. Like, you know what I'm saying? So if I have an issue with my daughter, we handle it when we get home. I don't know why the mother came up to the school, but she was ready to whoop this child when she stepped on property. Like, so,
it's Freddie actually chimed in. He said he hated the language she used and the filming, but he didn't think the spanking itself was all that bad. And when you watch the spanking, I feel like he's right. Like the language and the being in the kid's face made it look like it was maybe a lot worse than what it was. My problem with this is, like you said, I felt like she walked into the school knowing this was going to happen. And this was like, because she brought somebody to record this.
To me, it was less discipline for this child as this was some sort of therapy or thing for her.
Yes.
That's what bothers me about it. The language as well. I recall getting whooped by my parents. As a 39-year-old man right now talking to you, I can tell you a couple of those whoopings I got was probably certified child abuse. Like, there's some times, and I've talked to my parents about this. There's some times I got my butt toe up, and it was like, and looking back, I'm like, you know what? I should have got a whooping, but you went too far. Like, you know what I mean? Some of those whoopings. However, as angry as my parents might have been, I always knew every single whooping I got, either before, during, and after, I was told why I got that whooping, that I was loved, and that this is a form of discipline. My parents never whooped me, and in that whooping referred to me as a nigga. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that alone is more abusive to me than her hitting him with the belt. But you add that language that she's using while she's hitting him with the belt. This is not discipline. This is an attack on a kid now. And that to me is what makes this child abuse.
Looks like we have a phone call. Who's this?
What's up? This is Bryce.
Hey, Bryce, how you doing? Bryce is he sent us
guys?
Good. We're talking about your article you sent us. So
yeah.
You didn't comment on this. So what was your take on it?
I didn't comment because I wanted to talk about it.
Okay.
That's why. So I just kind of like sat back, and that I just thought it was just interesting because now we're like, all right. So like when I watched it, if you look at, so this is why I thought it was interesting, because now you're kind of crossing cultural borders now. Like, I don't understand. Like, maybe I didn't know if that language is something that Black people do, like when they get really pissed at their kids, because for me, like I'm Asian, so my parents, they say stuff to me when they're mad. So you got to realize, okay, the parent is mad right now,
right?
So I've gotten whooped, and like. And watching the video, like, okay, so she dragged her kid outside and she picked him up from his shirt. She didn't drag him on the ground. So it's kind of like she's mad, but then she whooped him, but she stops. She whoops him. She tells him what's wrong and she stops. It's not like she just goes ham on the kid, right?
Right.
So for me, honestly, I didn't feel like it was abuse, but the language, it bothered me, but I wasn't sure if that's something that goes on with, the culture or not. You know what I'm saying? So, I think it backfired on her. I think she made this video thinking that, oh, I'm going to be one of these parents. See, like people always saying like, oh, people don't hit their, beat their kid enough. Like they, they're letting them, like, cause teachers are like, oh, the kids don't behave at home. Everybody's kind of like, I really think it backfired on her. She's thinking like she's going to be a hero, and now she got kids taken away from the video. You know what I'm saying?
I think I agree with you that way. Like, because why else do you take the camera in there? Like, she brought somebody to record for. There's a couple things. I guess I never thought about whoopings being cultural. Like, because I'm trying to think like.
Well, I don't mean culture. I meant the language.
I'm trying to think like if I ever got whooped and been called like an N-word. Like I've been told, I've been yelled at, like, "Oh, you think you're gonna get away with this?" You know, like, you know who you think you are. But I don't know that I've ever been degraded, so to speak, in a whooping. You know what I mean? Like, it's always been like, "Oh, so you think who you think you are? Oh, you think you can just do this?" And she was part of that. But you're right. She's calling him nigger in the video. And I have a couple issues with the video. A, she brought somebody to video this, which to me means that she was trying to put on a show, which to me is the bigger issue than the whooping, is the fact that she's trying to put on a show.
She might have even exaggerated a little bit
because she was trying to do this. Right. And there are two school officials there. Yeah. Just standing there looking and watching. Yeah. Nobody says anything.
And to me, that's a thin line, because on one hand, it's like, you know what, this is the mother of this child. This is her child. You know, I don't know if child services or whatever got called by the school official, or if the video got out and that's why her kids got taken away. So I don't want to, you know, accuse the school officials, but as a human being, and this is like my standpoint, like if I'm a teacher at the school, I'm going to break this up. Like, we don't allow fights in school. Right. You know what I mean? And we don't allow discipline either. Like, okay, your child did something wrong. I understand you're very upset, but you're going to have to finish this later. Right. Like, you can't do this here. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
which could have changed a lot of everything, you know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah. Because then the mother would have had, like, whoa, you guys got to take this home. Because now the mother has a cooling down period, right? Where at some time you think that something clicks in your head and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Maybe I'm overdoing this a little bit, like that. Right. Like, I mean, I don't have a problem. People have a problem with the belt whooping. I don't really have a problem with that.
The only thing with that is maybe because she did kind of cross him around the back, but
that's what I was gonna say. She kind of hit him on the bare skin of the back, and not like
I mean,
I don't know. It's really a lot of borderline stuff, because like it kind of like she hit him a couple times and like told him why she did it and like what's wrong and don't do it again. You know, like it wasn't like just a lashing out like anger,
right?
Know, like just repetitive. But
and that's the thing is I don't. This is the issue, and I'm glad you brought up this cultural thing, because I think that spankings in general are very cultural. And it's not to say like, oh, black people whoop their kids and white people don't. I think that the way we do it in most cases, stereotypically and most often, is the same. And there's a lot of people culturally who do things just because their parents did them and they don't question it. Some kids are getting whoopings when they don't need whoopings. You understand? Like I 100% know that my parents whooped me because they thought it was the right thing to do. But I can also tell you that my parents probably got some whoopings they shouldn't have gotten. So they didn't hand those whoopings down to me. When I got a whooping, I was told why. Oh, you know what I mean?
You go to a family reunion,
you understand?
And you listen to the older generation in my family talk about the whoopings that they got from Miss Fannie Mae, my great grandmother.
Right.
Woo!
You see. So some things are just passed down in tradition with no explanation, and so a lot of people feel like, oh, well, you have to whoop your kid, or the cops are going to do it. You have to whoop your kid, or somebody in the street's going to do it. And it's like, no, wait a minute. It's not necessarily whoop your kids. It's discipline your kids. Teach them. Raise them to be better. You don't have to pull out a belt to do that all the time. It doesn't mean you never pull out a belt.
Bryce, you kind of have an interest. You're Vietnamese, but you were raised in the South. So, like, do you feel like, because I feel like people in the South discipline their children differently than people in the North. And like it's a regional kind of thing too. Do you feel like you were raised with a Southern background discipline, or like a Vietnamese, or like a combination of both?
No, mine was just Vietnamese.
Pretty nice.
I don't think it had anything to do with where I was raised.
Okay.
Okay. My mom, she used to sometimes we would get but when we get whooped, they'll let us know in the morning. But they'll make us think about it. They'll be like,
"Oh, that was the worst." You know, that was the worst. I hate that. Don't wait till your dad gets home. Now I got to go sit in the room for 4.5 hours waiting. That was worse than the whooping.
Yeah. I rarely got it. Like if I got something quick, it would be like a quick slap across the face. Like I get slapped. You know, we used to get slapped across the face, pulled on the ear. It's like when that lady like picked up her kid. I kind of like relate that to like my ears getting pulled. Like, you know, like.
Yeah.
So, But yeah, they were just like they would always be like, all right, tonight you're gonna get a whooping, and your brother and sister probably gonna get a whooping too, all at the same time. She's like, as a tally.
Yeah, we've had those line up and get your ass whooped parties at my house too.
Yeah, she's like they just save it up and like, all right, and then and like I deserved it, just about all of them.
But that's the truth, though, right? And you knew when you did something,
right,
that you were like, if I get caught for this, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah,
like I'm getting whooped for this. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I mean, and we grew up on a military base, so like you couldn't do anything without somebody knowing. Like my dad, like on base.
Yeah.
So like if we did something, it was gonna get back to. I remember one time my brother Charles and I were acting a fool, like walking home. Like we get home 20 minutes later, my dad's like, "Why y'all out there messing?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Mr. G called me and told me y'all was out there. I'm like, "Damn, can't Mr. G mind his own business?" Like,
I think that's a huge thing too, and that kind of goes to the part of this where there was a saying, or I guess it still is a saying, but it takes a village,
right?
And I think growing up we used to have a village where the neighbors would help, the neighbors would keep an eye on your kids, the neighbors would say things. We had a community where people knew each other, but we live on a completely different planet now. We don't have that same community, we don't have that same trust. And I mean, God forbid somebody who ain't the parent, spanks a kid. Like, you know what I'm saying? As much as we're giving this woman hell for spanking her own child, imagine if that wasn't the mom. Right, right. I mean, that's just the world we live in, where the world our parents grew up in. My parents talk about getting a spanking from their neighbor, and then the neighbor going to tell the parents that they spanked them, and then they got another spanking, not just for what they did wrong, but because they embarrassed them in front of the neighbor, and the neighbor had to give them a spanking.
Brian's chimed in on Facebook. He said the line whoopings were because nobody would rat on anyone else. That's true. Either that or it was no, he did it. No, he did it. You were trying to rat each other out, and nobody would take the blame for it. Hey, Bryce, thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it.
All right, bud.
All right. Again, if you guys you want to hit us up on Facebook, Dallas Scott, or Dallas Scott 73 on Instagram, you have stories you want to talk to Hollywood Huff, and what's your info?
On Instagram is Hollywood Huff, HLLYWDHFF. If you're watching this, just look at your screen. That's my name on Instagram, and then Steve Huff Jr. on Facebook.
Yeah, we're always willing to talk about just about any subject. I don't feel like we haven't anything come off so far that we're like, no, we're not going to touch that.
Yeah.
We do try to stay away from the current president because it's a no-win battle, right? Like it's
either like super low-hanging fruit, or it's just not worth the argument that it's going to bring. He's
line up ass whoopings were the worst.
Yeah,
you're right, Robert. Like it was like the Musketeers whoopings for one. Brian says there were no rats in their family. We were whoopings. They were like the whooping Musketeers. Whooping for one, whooping for all. So I told you this story. I don't know if I ever told it on the podcast before. So a while back, I was having a booty call situation with this woman, and it wasn't a relationship. It was just strictly a 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing?
The sweet love hour.
WYD. How about if I pick you up on my way home from work? Kind of,
I feel like we need a new word. Like, it can't be booty call anymore. No. Nobody calls anybody anymore. It's just a text now. Like,
so
booty text.
Booty text.
Booty text.
Here's my booty text. They have a new girlfriend? Oh no, that's just my booty text.
That's just booty text, man. That's all that is.
That's just my thing. Like, not even the boot thing. Just so like, I mean, this kind of went on for, God, I want to say a year and a half or so. You know what I mean? It wasn't whatever. She could do whatever she was doing. I was doing whatever I was doing.
Right.
But at one point, I found out that one of the people she was sleeping with was in a gay relationship with another man.
Oh.
So,
man. All right.
See, you see how you see what's going through your mind? That's exactly what went through my mind, right? No, like, that's exactly what went through my mind.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Right.
Like,
right.
I need to go to the doctor, have some tests ran here because
yeah. What's going on? Yeah.
And again, it wasn't like a committed thing. She could do what she wanted to do, but I feel like there are certain lines that you can't. At some point, you got to tell somebody about some things, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that, like, because it affects a whole lot of other people.
If you sleeping around, you need to let the people you sleeping around with know that you're sleeping around.
Right.
Like,
and I was aware that she was doing whatever, whenever.
Right.
But I was not aware that she was doing whatever with a man who was in a gay relationship.
Right.
Which brings. Go ahead, Quan. He's just like, nah. So, like, I freak out, right?
Right.
Like, I go to the doctor. I do my whole 6 months worth of, do I have HIV panel test, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing these ads on TV for this drug called Truvada.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe I should get this just in case future references. You know what I mean? Like, I got insurance.
Yeah.
So I called the number on the TV. And they're like, oh, you need to call your insurance company, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So I called my insurance company. And they're like, oh, yes, we cover this drug.
Right.
At 20% of the cost.
Okay.
I'm like, cool. So what's the drug cost a month? $2,000.
Whoa.
So I would have to pay $400 a month for this drug? Yes. I was like, damn, that's kind of steep.
Yeah.
Andrew Yang, who's running for president, last week made an announcement. And again, I didn't know this. I didn't know that there are only 2 countries in the world where you can run prescription drug ads. And we're one of them. The other one, I believe, is Portugal. Like, it's against the law in every other country. You know those drug ads you see that say, list all the side effects that can kill you? And don't take this drug if you're allergic to it, but you don't know if you're allergic to it until you take the drug?
Wow.
Those ads are illegal in all but one other country.
Wow.
Which actually kind of makes sense to me. Like, right? Because, like, do we really want pharmaceutical companies pushing us? So I start researching Truvada.
Right.
And I come across an article from May of this year where Miss Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the CEO of the drug company is Gilead. Gilead is the drug company.
Right.
He's testifying in front of Congress. And she asked him this question. And this blew my mind. She says, why does Truvada cost nearly $2,000 a month in the United States when it's only $8 a month in Australia?
Yeah, that kind of blew my mind too.
You're talking 220 times more expensive in the United States than in Australia.
Yeah.
So the CEO, his name is Daniel O'Day. And his response is, the drug is under patent protection in the United States. There's no generic form available in the United States. They sell generic form in Australia. Wait, there's more.
Spill it.
Truvada, or excuse me, Gilead, the company that makes Truvada,
right,
was given $50 million worth of U.S. taxpayer money to do research on this drug.
Right.
$50 million. So the United States, we've essentially paid for the research on this drug.
Right.
Right. And now you're charging us, the people who paid for the research on the drug,
right,
220 times more than people in other countries because it's patent protected in the United States. So now it's essentially because you can. Here's the thing about patent protection, though, right? If I own the patent to something, I can allow you to use my patent. I can be like, hey, Steve.
Right.
Hey, I got this patent, but you know what? Why don't you use this patent and give me $100 a month off so you can now sell the drug for $200, pay me $100, and the insurance, my insurance would then cost me like $40 a month.
So for the people who can't understand this, let me show you what this is like. So I'm an inventor, right? And I make drugs. Okay. And you need some drugs. So you come to me and say, Steve, we need a drug to do XYZ. And I say, all right, I'm going to charge you $50 million to make this drug, right? And you say, okay, cool. You pay me $50 million to make a drug. I make the drug. And then I tell you, all right, but now to get this drug, though, it's going to cost $2,000 a pop. So if anybody wants it, they got to pay $2,000 because those are my fees. I got, XYZ and all of this in it, right? $2,000. And you're like, all right, cool. Makes sense, right? $2,000, drugs cost money, fine, whatever. But then a week later, you find out that I'm selling this same drug for $8 down the street on the corner. Not just down the street, but around the corner. Basically every other corner except the corner you work at, people can go and get this drug for $8 or less. But if they come to you, the person who actually paid for it, they got to pay $2,000. You got to pay $2,000 if you want this drug that you paid for that only exists because of your money. That's what this drug company is doing right here in America. Because, and their excuse is, oh, it's a patent. Like, we got to cover the patent. Like, the patent is paid for.
Right.
There is no...
the U.S. paid for it. We paid for the patent already. We paid for the research and the patent.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like this is
the problem with drugs in America.
It is.
Because they spend $50 million on advertising, and then they charge you $2,000 for a drug to cover the cost of that advertising. And then they continue to do this until they basically...
They're forced to give up the patent.
Right.
And now other companies can make the generic version of it. And now all of a sudden the drug is worthless because everybody can make it.
Right.
But here's the thing though, right? This is a drug that obviously would help the gay community, right?
It would help the straight community.
Well, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that. Okay, right? Like, so like the percentage of HIV in the city of Atlanta alone right now is like 23%.
Yeah.
Think about that. It's almost 1 in 4 persons.
Yeah, it's something crazy. Yeah.
So in Atlanta alone, it's being spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Like, and you're charging people. So what Truvada does, let's explain what it does so people understand. If you take this pill, it's a once daily pill.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 99.9% chance of not passing HIV on to somebody else.
Right. If
you don't have HIV and you are taking this drug, you have a 99.9% chance of not contracting the disease.
Right.
Okay?
So it's not a cure, but it stops the spread of the disease. Exactly.
And someplace like Atlanta, where it's spreading like wildfire, I feel like if you sold this drug for $100, every damn buddy in Atlanta would buy this drug.
Yeah.
Every single person, anybody messing around in Atlanta would buy this drug.
There's a price point that's higher than $8 that I still think is fair and people would pay.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day,
higher than 8 and way less than 2,000 or 1,700. Right. Like,
right.
Like, this is a drug that I want my kids to take and have access to. Right.
Right.
I have 20-year-olds and 19-year-old kids and 15-year-old kids. Like, I want them to be able to have something.
Right.
Where one mistake doesn't cost them the rest of their entire life.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I feel like, and I know a lot of women take like birth control shots and IUDs and stuff, and they don't actually take the daily pill. But I feel like if I was a single woman, every day when I woke up to take my daily pill, I'd be taking this pill with it.
Yeah.
Just
because at I don't know, $20 a month. It's affordable.
Yes.
It shouldn't be so much that it's like breaking the bank.
$100 a month. It's worth $100 a month.
Yeah. If you're sexually active to this point, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. If you're sleeping around, if you're sexually active, which it's your personal business, but to not affect other people and ruin their lives.
Right. And with all the hims, he, she's, polyamorous, cis men, all of that stuff going on, like there's a lot more of this going on in this country of sleeping around. Even probably more so than in the 80s when HIV became rampant. Like, now we know how Magic Johnson stayed alive all this long. Like this drug to me, you can't tell me this drug's only been around for 8 years.
He could, and that is the point that I made the minute they said he no longer has active HIV in his body, which is because he can afford the treatment that the other 99% of people who got HIV can't.
Right.
And that is a sad day when we finally admit that to ourselves as a country, that we are basically making money off of people instead of actually making their lives better. Which, if you want to make America great, every study ever done in the history of mankind shows that when nations that have poor health care or poor health, especially like in African nations, South America, a lot of other third world countries, poverty-stricken countries, when you introduce health care to them and they have now a healthcare system where they can be healthy, everything else thrives. You can't throw money at them and then the country gets better. You can't give them guns and the country gets better. It's health. The minute that dad can go to work and not worry about cancer anymore, he becomes more productive. The company he works for becomes more productive. And this works. It's a trickle up that works. And it starts with healthcare. Like, and people don't understand that because in America, as flawed as our system has been forever, we still have healthcare. If you get shot, you can still go to the hospital and they'll pair you up. If you have cancer, they'll do a certain amount of treatments for you. You know what I mean? Like whether you have insurance or not, and they'll send you a bill. So we have better healthcare still than a lot of countries, but then as we found in recent years, we're not as good as we thought we were. Right. But yet we still have a healthy country, so to speak, even in spite of having to pay $2,000 for a drug that should only cost about $5.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like they would make a lot more money if everybody was buying this instead of just a select few at $2,000 a month. Does it make sense? Like, I don't know how many people are buying this drug right now. I couldn't find a number to like how many people take Truvada, but I gotta believe if it was a reasonable amount, the number would triple or quadruple. Why would you not take this? Like, and I get married couples and stuff like that, but if you're a single person who is doing whatever you're doing sexually, right?
Yeah.
This makes too much sense, right? And because they know it makes too much sense, they can charge you $2,000 a month for it.
And because a lot of it is power. So here is how a lot of medical procedures and medicine works. So if you have insurance, right, and you go to see your doctor, and you're gonna get, I'll give you a perfect example. I had surgery on my foot a couple years ago. So I'm talking to my doctor because it's going to be a few $1,000s. So I'm like, okay, can I do care credit? You know, I got to pay cash. Like what? Like how much is this going to cost me? And he goes, that's complicated. And I'm like, bruh, you're doing this surgery. How much do I got to pay you to chop up my foot? Like it's got to be a dollar amount. And he goes, well, if you're going to pay cash, it's going to be about $5,000. But if we're going through your insurance, it's going to be about $12,000. And I'm like, okay. In my mind, my first thought is, I don't care about the insurance, how much I got to pay out of pocket. But here's why that matters. If they go through the insurance never pays the full amount that they ask for. So when he asked the insurance for $12,000, the insurance is going to come back and basically they have this little quick negotiation and the insurance says we're going to pay $8,000, right? So now the price went from $12,000 to him actually getting paid $8,000. And then because of the way the insurance is set up, I have to pay a copay of like $500 or $1,000 or something like that, right? Out of that cost. But if I don't have insurance, he's just going to charge me cash $5,000. So a lot of these companies, these drug companies, if they only sold this drug as cash, they could charge a flat rate, which they know people will pay for. There's a price point. They do studies on it and they find out the average person can pay $20 a month for this drug. And that's what they'll charge. But because they know insurances will pay these ridiculous premiums, they charge $2,000. The insurance gives them $1,200, and then they send you a bill for $400. And then they make $1,600 or $1,592 off of a pill because it only costs them like $8 to make or less. Right? So that's how it works. That's the business of your health. And as much as people say, like, you know, all doctors mean well and the drug companies mean well and all of this, some of them in their hearts, yeah, they might. But at the end of the day, they're running a business. They're trying to make a living and they're going to get as much money out of you as they can humanly possibly get to make you feel better. And they're going to keep you well enough that you keep coming back for more. They're not going to give you anything that could possibly heal you. They're not going to give you anything that's just going to make all the problems go away. They're going to give you just enough so you can come back tomorrow. Just like your job. Your paycheck is just fat enough so you can keep on working to come get another one. Because if they paid you enough, you'd stop coming. If they gave you enough medicine, you'd stop coming back. So do with that as you will, but those are the facts, folks.
Robert found out that 136,000 people take Truvada. Let me do my calculator here real quick. 136,000 people. Times $1,780 a month.
Ooh.
$242 million a month.
A month. A month. So there you go. You're making $242 a month. How much you think it costs to run that business? Not $242 million.
They apparently did $3 billion worth of sales, and that's what OAC was on them. But let's say you took that drug down to $100 a month. Let's like $150 even, like, right? Mm-hmm. I would have to believe that 500,000, 600,000 people minimum would take this drug, right?
Yeah.
You'd only be making $90 million a month. But that's minimum, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there are 3.8 million people a million people in the United States, or 380 million people in the United States. Yeah. Like, I feel like this is a 1% drug minimum.
Yeah.
You know what I memean? That would take this drug. Like, even if you only took it for a little while you were single until you got married.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they could make 300 million, 400 million a month making this a reasonably priced drug.
I mean, it's a lot of ways to speculate it and to try to figure it out. But at the end of the day, you just have to understand that, like, man, like, the American people, like, we can go off about this one specific case, but this is all medicine. This is how it works. I mean, this is just what's done.
And
I mean, this is essentially like what was Scarelli's? Is it Adam Scarelli or Martin Scarelli? What was the guy name who had the other drug that they said it cost like $7 to make? He was charging $300 for it or something like that.
You're talking about the not the penicillin, the insulin guy.
I think so. Yeah.
They became the billion.
Yeah, and he went to prison. Yeah. He bought the Wu-Tang album.
Yeah.
Terrible, ridiculous guy. But this is essentially like what he went to prison for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is like just raising a price to a ridiculous amount for no other reason than profit.
So Robert also found it globally as of October 2018, which is a year ago, 350,000 people globally take this drug. And I feel like I'm actually surprised that number is so low. And I feel like part of that is probably the stigmatism that it's a gay drug.
I think
you know what I mean?
That's part of it, but also, like, I mean, someone like myself, I'm married. I don't mess around like that. I don't have a reason to take it. But even so, maybe a month and a half ago was the first time I ever saw a commercial for it.
Right.
Because my first thought watching the commercial was like, is this a gay drug commercial? Like, that's literally what I thought.
Right.
And then when I started reading, you know, at the end where they're like, you know, oh, this is what Truvada is for, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, that's for everybody. Like, man, my first thought was, oh, that's pretty cool. Just stop people from getting HIV.
Right.
Okay. Like, you know, I didn't think much about it, but that was my first time hearing about it. And obviously it's been around much longer than that. But I mean, that's still like these things. I mean, obviously things take years to pick up on and build up. So, I mean, this is still early in its life as a drug. I mean, this could grow to a lot more people using it. But also I think part of the reason it has so few users is the price.
Right.
People simply can't afford it.
I just feel like when you're young and you're young, they go in for their yearly physicals, you know, and the doctor's like, oh, do you want the HPV shot? Do you want, you know, birth control, blah, blah, blah. Oh, do you want Truvada too? Because it'll prevent you from getting, it's 99.9% effective in preventing you from getting HIV. And at first, your first thought was like, oh, I'll never catch HIV. But when you really think about it, it's worth the investment, right? For $8, $10, $20 a month.
For most people, all it takes is for a couple people they know to do it, and then they deem it safe and reliable. I've heard plenty of women talk about, oh, I would never get the birth control patch, and then a couple of their friends got it, and then they were like,
oh, it's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing in the world.
I don't have to remember to take my pill.
Right, yeah, exactly. I
don't get my period no more. Yeah.
Right, I would never get this. I would never do that.
My
and
cramp's
then they
gone
do
away.
this, you know?
Yeah.
I know, and then the reverse is also true. I know plenty of people who don't do something because they had their friends had a negative reaction
without
to it.
any without any actual response of their
of their own. They never tried it, never did it. They just heard from a few of their peer group. That's just how people are. So with anything that's marketable, whether it be drugs, clothes, whatever, it just takes a few people in someone's peer group to say yay or nay, and then they jump on it.
I also feel like if you market, I feel like people market drugs in a way that make people not want to take them, though, right? Like we're one of the only countries that allow you to advertise prescription drugs, but then you do it in a way where they have to name all the side effects and all the bad things about it. And then how many times have you seen a commercial and not know what the hell the drug was for? You're like,
well, and I mean, they'll say like, you know, this is specific. This is, this is for some disease. And then a lot of times I'm like, what is that disease? Like,
Right,
I don't know
right,
what
right,
that is,
right.
know? Because all the commercials are kind of the same. They show these people,
Walking
middle-aged
around
older
looking
people
all happy,
walking around all
happy.
happy, which you think like they must normally not be happy, and now they take this drug and they're happier. But then like you hear all the symptoms, it's like, if you have any thoughts of suicide, please stop taking this drug. You know what I mean? And then you'll have, mild cramping, migraine headaches and diarrhea and this and that. And it's just like, wow, what could possibly be so wrong with you that you want to take this drug and then have diarrhea and think about killing yourself at the same time? Like, it's just,
I don't remember what there was a drug years ago, probably like 10, 15 years ago. And I wish my sister was watching. She could tell me now. There was a drug, and one of the side effects was anal leakage.
Yeah.
And she was taking the drug, and I'll never forget. She was like, I can't take this because she's having like anal leakage. She's going to hate that I told people this on there. But like she was like, this is like the worst thing in the world, walking around with your butt leaky. Like,
I mean, right. Like this. Welcome to America, folks. This is what we do. We sell drugs, and they're expensive.
One more quick story you want to get to, and it's sad, but I want to give shout out to the people of California because I feel like they handled something ridiculous the right way. Young man is in San Francisco, getting ready to get the train. He's eating a sandwich.
Yeah, Concord, California.
Yeah, just having a sandwich on his way to work. Hey, I gotta, he's late for work, whatever. He's in a hurry. Grabs sandwich, he's eating it. He gets pulled over by the BART police. BART is the Bay Area Rapid Transit Authority.
Yeah.
And they give this man a ticket and attempt to arrest him for eating his sandwich because it's illegal to eat a sandwich on the BART. Apparently from the time you enter the gate to the time you get out of the gate, food is not allowed. Right. So that means you can't eat on the train. You can't eat on the, there's
right.
And anybody who's ever been on any type of public transportation knows somebody's always eating.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's so there's, I don't want to make a lot of the story other than it's just ridiculousness. And was the guy harassed because he's a minority? Maybe. Like when you watch the video, it kind of seems like maybe he was. But the people of California, I love this. They're like, you know what? Tomorrow's everybody eat a sandwich day on the BART. They're like, you know what? We're just all going to bring sandwiches tomorrow, and they're going to arrest us. They can arrest us all. Like,
that's amazing. They had an eat-in at the BART station.
Yeah, like
where everybody just
showed up with a burger and like, you know what? We're just going to sit here and eat our food and mind our business. If you want to come give us tickets and arrest us all, be here. Like,
it's ridiculous because we all know, like, look, okay, the law is the law, right? If the speed limit's 35 and you're doing 37, you were speeding. But at some point, we have to say, like, look, man, I was going 2 miles over the speed limit. Clearly, my speedometer could be slightly off. It's not like I was putting anybody in danger. There has to be reason with enforcing a law, I believe. Whenever you have, I mean, this is clearly like, this guy is on his way to work and he's just eating a sandwich. He's not making a mess. So, yeah, according to BART, they have rules and stuff posted where you can't eat in any of like the paid areas. So I guess once you pay to get on the train, from that spot to getting on it, and then while you're on it, you can't eat. And I get that. But this cop here, the way he goes about enforcing the law, to me, is the problem. Which is, where's your humanity? Where is, this guy is not committing a violent crime. There are no victims here. Yes, he's not supposed to eat here. How about you go up to him and just talk to him like a person? Be a friend. You're a cop, right? You're here to serve and protect. Emphasis on serve. How about go to this guy and talk to him? Hey, man, look, I know you're just eating a sandwich, but you're not supposed to eat here. So how about a warning? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying?
We've talked about this before. This is why I feel like Las Vegas PD is different, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, first of all, this guy was given a $250 fine and 48 hours of public service for eating a sandwich.
This is ridiculous.
I feel like marijuana is legal in Las Vegas.
Right.
In the state. However, if you really look at the law is it's legal to possess an ounce. You can smoke it in your own home.
Right.
You cannot smoke in public.
Right. Can't smoke in public. You can't smoke in any of the hotels. You can't.
Or yeah.
Yeah, you pretty much can only smoke at home or in your car without the key in the ignition.
Yeah.
Like those are the only places you can smoke.
You can get DUIs just like if there's alcohol. But people come to town all the time. They think it's legal to smoke in Nevada. They don't read the law and they just start smoking.
Right.
I have seen cops on multiple occasions be like, "Hey, you can't smoke that here."
Right.
People are like, "Oh, my bad," and that's it. That's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
If the person wants to get ignorant and be like, whatever, then that's a whole nother story, and that's on them.
Right.
But the cop is never the antagonist in this here that I've seen.
Right.
It's always like, "Hey, man, you can't smoke that here."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, I thought it was legal. It's legal to possess. You can smoke it in private property." "Oh, my bad, man. I'm sorry. I'll put it out."
Right.
And then they walk 100 feet down the road
And
they light it open.
Yeah.
But the cop doesn't follow them down there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I see that a lot more in Vegas where cops are like you talked about the time you were on your phone in the car.
Yeah.
And the cop pulled up, got on the speaker and was like, "Get off the phone."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like in so many other states, that would have been a major issue for you.
Right.
Here, I think the cops are just like, "Don't do that." You're not supposed to like it's almost like they're your dad. Like, "Stop it." You're like, "My bad, Dad." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like there's not. But then you go see things like this, where it's just, and we only see what happens from the time the video started being recorded, right?
Right.
And this is the problem with sometimes with video is that like, you never see the beginning of the situation.
Right.
So we don't know truly how the cop.
Right.
How this interaction started. We only see from the point where the girlfriend started recording. It's like, "I'm just eating a sandwich, man."
Yeah.
It's like, "Well, you're not supposed to do that." And then it kind of escalates from there. But I feel like there's got to be a point. As a cop, aren't you just like, this isn't worth my damn day? Like, really? Like,
see, and that's how I feel. You look at this thing where like, what makes a person become a cop, right? And I say this multiple times. Like, I've never met a cop who became a cop because he was obsessed with like, cleaning up the neighborhood and enforcing laws and making the world a better place. Like every cop that I've ever come in contact with who became a police officer, a member of law enforcement, basically was looking for a better job with good benefits. You know what I mean? They were looking for a way that maybe they could do some good, but it was mostly a personal thing of, you know what? It's a good job. The pay is good. I can retire. I got benefits. If anything happens to me, my family's taken care of, which is honorable, all good and well, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you come across these cops who act like this, I feel like this is the guy who's been snitching on people his whole life. He's the guy, like, I had an incident in high school once. You can't eat in the library, right, at school. And I didn't know that at the time. I had, like, a bag of Skittles or something, right? And I poured the Skittles in my hand, and I'm popping them in my mouth, okay? So the guy comes over and is like, "Hey, you can't eat in here," right? So I got, like, 4 Skittles in one hand and a bag of Skittles in the other hand. I go, "Oh, I'm sorry." Well, naturally, what do you think I did?
You ate the 4 Skittles?
Yeah, the 4 Skittles. I shoved them in my mouth, and I took the Skittle bag and put it in my pocket. And right when I does that, he goes, "Get out." And I was like, "Whoa, why?" He's like, "I just told you not to eat, and you ate again." And I was like, "Yeah, because how was I supposed to put the Skittles back in the bag? Like, I guess I could have, but it was naturally just not eat anymore, right?
Right.
So we get into like a 10-second argument because I'm just like, "Man, whatever, dude. I'm just gonna leave the library," you know? And that's in a sense kind of what happens here is this. There's no humanity about it's just enforcing a law.
Right.
And this cop comes up, and of course, we don't know how much of a jerk the guy could have been to the cop or whatever about, not eating, or whatever. But at the same time, the cop could have just, like you said, he could have just came up to him and be like, "Look, bro, you're not supposed to eat in here. Just wrap it up for me." You know what I'm saying? Wrap it up till you get off the train or whatever.
Or for next time, like.
Yeah, for next time, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about people's lives and living paycheck to paycheck and having to catch a bus or a train to get to work to do what you're trying to do is, using public transportation. $250 really for just eating a sandwich, which you really don't have time to stop and sit down.
48 hours of community service.
And 48, right?
Who's got 48 hours in their life right now they can do public service with?
Yeah, I mean that alone is it's what to deter people from what dropping crumb. I mean,
Robert says it's impossible to put Skittles back in the bag once you've released the rainbow.
Well, thank you. That was my argument then. As like a 16-year-old in high school.
Darren actually backs up what we say. He's like, he's been pulled over plenty of times by police in Vegas. They're like, "Hey, you got an outstanding ticket for this. Make sure you take care of it." And I've had the same thing where I had a failure to stop ticket I didn't pull over.
Yeah.
And it warranted out or became a warrant or whatever. And I got pulled over twice before I took care of it. Yeah. And both times the cops were like, "You have a warrant for failure to stop or whatever.
Yeah.
We're not going to arrest you. You need to get taken care of. As long as, because all my other stuff is legit. You know what I mean? Like all my other stuff is
because you know why? Because you're not a serial killer.
Right.
When they looked up your rap sheet, which of course they do when they run your name and your ID, you didn't rob 10 people before. You're not like a 3-time felon or something who's just, there's no reason to get you off the street.
Right.
You know what I mean? You probably didn't pay that ticket because why? You didn't have the money. You didn't have the time. You simply forgot about it. These are like the main 3 things people don't pay tickets and get warrants other than just being a career criminal.
Right.
So shout out to Metro PD for recognizing that in most cases and just saying, you know what? This ain't that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like, this is really non-violent. You're not really causing a problem to anybody except yourself. This is going to cost you money that you're going to have to pay to us. But guess what? We don't really need your $250. So just get it taken care of.
I actually got pulled over once here for fitting the description. My vehicle fit the description.
Mm-hmm.
And I was concealing and carrying at the time. And it was, as a black person, is the weirdest experience I've ever had with police.
Mm-hmm.
Because I get pulled over. I don't know what I'm being pulled over for. They do the cop, one on each side.
Mm-hmm.
Senior cop's like, "Hey, you have your vehicle and you fit the description of an assault down the street, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
You have your ID and all that stuff. Sure, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
you have any weapons? Yes, I have. And my registration, everything's in my glove box. So is my gun." And I'm like, he's like, I'm like, "Everything's in my glove box, but so is my gun. I'm like, conceal everything, permits, everything's in there. I'm not going in there. If you guys want to go in the glove box and get it, that's fine." It's like, cool. So then they do the whole, do you mind getting out of the car for our safety? We're going to pat you down, blah, blah, blah. He's got a rookie officer with him. And the rookie officer kind of comes up and he kind of starts to get a little aggressive with me. And the senior officer was like, "That's not necessary."
Right.
And I was like, "What? I'm not doing anything." He's, "Oh, no, I'm talking to the other officer." He's like, "There's no reason for you to be aggressive because all you're doing now is, as you can tell, now he's agitated."
Right.
Speaking about me being agitated.
Right.
Because I haven't done anything wrong. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm complying with what you asked me to do.
Right.
And he basically was like giving this new officer this training and the fact that, like, you don't need to treat somebody who's being civil to you aggressively.
Right.
Like, he hasn't done anything. He's told us the gun's in the car. The guy's going through all my paperwork and stuff in his hand at the time.
Yeah.
He's like, "There's no reason to do the kick his legs apart kind of thing." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I already got my hands on the hood. You know what I mean? I'm already letting you pat me down. I'm not arguing, fighting this with you.
And that alone right there, right? Where that's what bothers me more about the eating a sandwich thing on the train station, right? Because at this point, you're kind of starting an altercation that didn't have to happen. Where was this guy supposed to be eating a sandwich? No. Was he breaking the law? Yeah, based on what the law was. Was it really worth an altercation where you end up having to call backup and handcuff this guy over eating a sandwich?
Right.
Like when we read the headline the next day, which is what we all did, and it says, "Black man arrested for eating a sandwich." Like, is it worth that publicity?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, and how many incidences have resulted in a police officer shooting someone or beating someone or doing something that just didn't have to happen because of an altercation that didn't have to happen?
How many times have we seen the video where the cop jumps out of the car and you already know somebody's going to get beat down, right? Like, you can just look at his face when he's out the car. He's aggressive. Like, he's in 1000 mode already. He doesn't come in to diffuse the situation or to find out what the situation is. He's already been told something and got his mind made up, and he's just going.
Yeah, he's jacked already. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
Like,
how many times has someone been arrested for eating a sandwich, though, at that station just because it wasn't recorded? Do we know that hasn't happened before?
We don't.
And was he arrested for eating the sandwich, or was he arrested because he wouldn't leave when they were telling him that he couldn't do that anymore?
And that's the other thing that I feel like is missing from the video.
People get,
you know what I mean?
People get a little braver when the camera's out.
Right.
People put the camera out because they know they want to go viral. I see it a lot these days, working on Fremont, doing Lyft out here. You see it right when something happens and cops come up. Everyone puts their phone out and they're trying to antagonize. They're trying to create a story on their cell phone before anything's even really happened.
Right. And that's why I wanted to emphasize, like, the guy did break the rules here. Like,
so
you know
if you
what
cut
I'm saying?
up the video and put it up and put the headline, that's what we're all going to think. We're going to jump on that and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. A black man ate a sandwich and got arrested.
Right. And that's why I said we don't know what happened before the camera started rolling. What did he say to the cop? Did he tell the cop to F off? You know,
right. Because
fuck you, man. I'm eating my sandwich. Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
you know what I mean? So that's my only like beef about it. From what we see, it's just like this cop is like, man, he's picking a fight that doesn't need to be had here. You know what I'm saying? And that's what rubs me the wrong way, and it bothers me. But then there's just still that, like, I'm kind of like, I don't want to say necessarily giving him the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, I guess I am, because it's like we don't know what was said beforehand.
So a few years ago, there was this video of a black guy being beat by cops at a gas station in Philadelphia, right? And the video is just of what's going on at the gas station, right? So you see the cops dragging this guy out of the car and beating him down and blah, 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 blah. And it's like another black man beaten by the police. But what you don't know is that for 25 minutes before this, the police were chasing this guy down the street. This man almost killed 6 people running stoplights and red lights, literally almost like blasted through a 2-year-old kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he only stopped because he wrecked into a pole at the gas station. He deserved to get your ass beat. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, like, they're just, that's not police.
There have been plenty of instances where I've seen people post stuff and they go, oh, this just ain't right, this and this and that. And I watched the video, and on the surface, you see a police, cracking somebody upside the head. And you do, and a lot of times I watch the video and my first thought is, man, that is shady, police brutality. And then you start to watch the video, or you read like the story of what led up to that. And then you stop and think, well, he had that coming. Like, you know what I mean? There's an unwritten law. And look, a lot of us law-abiding citizens and people who have never been in trouble our whole lives, we don't know about the street law, but the police know it and the thugs know it. Like, go outside, find some local thugs and interview them, and they'll tell you there are unwritten laws of basically the cops and robbers. Okay, and one of these laws is, look, we're the robbers. You know what I mean? We do whatever we want to do, but we don't shoot cops, we don't harass cops, but we gonna run from them. Of course, if we do something, they pull up, we gonna run. The law of the cops is, look, we're not going to beat y'all down or shoot y'all unless y'all got it coming. But we're going to roll up on y'all. We're going to break up whatever y'all doing. We're going to cause y'all problems. This is what we do. This is like an unwritten law, the unwritten rule. Okay?
Anybody who's ever lived in any I don't even want to say non-rich suburban, because I've seen it happen. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I've seen the cops just roll up on somebody, turn the lights on and be like, keep it moving. Yeah. And I get it. Is it profiling? Maybe. But are these guys maybe up to no good? I don't know.
I mean, but there's one thing, like, a lot of these guys, they also have a history with the cops too, and the cops roll up and they see them and they know them.
We don't know what
there's
the
a lot of
history is
other things going on sometimes, and there's so much into this where I stand by this. For as many bad cops as we see in videos, there are still a lot of good cops out there. I still respect law enforcement. Changes are needed. Better training is needed. However, most of them are good guys trying to do the right thing. That's all I want to say.
Hey, everyone, thank you guys for watching. We will be back next Thursday at 12-ish Pacific Standard Time. That's our last episode for season 1, and we'll be back after the first of the year. Thanks again. If you guys have any stories, please hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. Dallas Scott on Facebook, Dallas Scott 73 on Instagram. He is Hollywood Huff, as it is on your screen on Instagram, or Steve Huff Jr. on Facebook. Thanks again. Quan, thank you.
Yeah.